Hi, and welcome to this module about transactions. So first, what is a transaction? Transaction is like a case that you open and you attach all different other processes into it. For example, if our client wants to apply for an Australian student visa, then we can open up an Australian student visa transaction. That's just like a case. And then you can attach various applications you make to like 3 colleges from their preferences. Then you can also attach a process for OHSC, a process for arranging their accommodation, a process for their visa lodgement, etc. into that one singular case. So transactions helps us manage a lot of sub-processes that happen within a bigger process. Questions often come, is transaction absolutely necessary? Because we have a client and then we can directly apply. So we can go to applications, skipping the transactions altogether. Yes, that is possible if you are a smaller agency and you do not process that many clients. But if you are processing hundreds of clients, the best recommended approach would be to create a transaction, and in that transaction you attach applications. Okay, now on the transaction list looks like just any other list, like lead list and client list. So you go to the sidebar, click transaction, and you see a list like this. All this tabular informations relating to withdrawn, terminate, completed, they follow the same pattern and they mean the same thing. The information is provided over here, and then you can create a new transactions by clicking and opening up these forms. And you can fill out these details, what kind of transactions it is, and then you should be able to create a transaction. Sometime if 2 people are tracking the transaction, then you can have a secondary responsible for the transaction as well, and you can also provide them in the list. So once you fill this form and click add, then you will be able to create a transactions. Transactions can also be triggered from the clients automatically through the system, which can also create the transaction in the same manner. Let's look at a transaction detail. So this is for our client attendee B, and that's for our Australian student visa demo transaction. So you can see here again the same pattern. So this is a transaction path set by your organizations, and again here there are notes that you can put into the transactions. So you can put a note, and let's put a note something. I'll put here something called started the process. And if we want to show to the client, we can do show clients. Otherwise we can write it as simply as a note. And the next thing I will do here is call the client on a particular date for these transactions. Again, every interactions we record that as a note, and then we keep on changing the transaction path. Okay, now let's explore the tabs. If you go to the tabs, you will see here documents. These are all the documents that are needed for processing a particular type of transaction. You can add more documents over here, or you can apply a checklist if that has been set up as well. Similarly, you can also look into the workflow. So workflows are this series of steps that can be defined and attached to a transaction. So in this instance, Australia student visa workflow has been attached, which has these steps: documentations, medicals, offer letter, COE, English test, lodgements, OHSC insurance, biometric, and so on. All of these steps can be designed under the workflow, and they can be brought into a transaction by attaching a particular transaction. Like I would like to attach a second workflow as well, called test workflow 2. And I can do that. And now this transaction can have one workflow and another workflow. Workflow provide us this kind of a visual steps queues or checklists to navigate. For example, I have already initiated the documentations. So I will provide here an update called this is now in progress, and there's next action item. I will not put any next action item. It's not necessary to put, and then I have already added the workflow update. Once I have done that, this has also already appeared on the note. We can see the change already here. Also, if I go to the workflow, now this step has gone to orange. If I again update it after completing all the documentations, then this will now, again, if you go here, updates are also provided there. The notes are also written on the main body of the transactions. There are 3 notes now, and now this is green. Now, since the documentation is done, I will now start the process for an offer letter. So I will start now into in progress. Similarly, the idea is that we go and tick all the steps of that workflow to make sure that we are progressing and with the client and keeping track of every single thing that we need to do. There is no need to complete this in a sequence. They can be done in parallel. Okay, now where do we set up the workflows? The workflows are in settings, and here in the workflow, this workflows could be defined. So this was the workflow that was applied. So if I go in here, you can set up your template over here, and then you can apply those templates to the transactions. Okay, now let's look at the other tabs, applications. So now if we want to initiate an application for this client, we can initiate from here. We can also start it from the application and link it back to the transactions. Either way, they will all come into the same place. So I will let the system load this, and now we want to apply to our attendee B, and this will be for transaction. System already gets this information. Let's say college application, and you can put here open. You can fill this form, which university you are applying. Let's say we are applying to this university. Which course you are applying? We are applying to Masters of Nursing, and we are applying UPSOR. So you can complete this information, and then you can get to the stage of checking the eligibility and then applying. I will talk in detail about the application in the next module. So let's hit back to the transactions again. You can also add a visa status if there is any lodgement or visa decision, and this will help you keep track of them in the KPIs and variety of reports. As you progress through the transaction, you will come to a stage whether it will be completed, it will be withdrawn, or it will be cancelled from your side if the client is unresponsive. Similarly, you can also attach tasks related to the transaction and track them all from here. Finally, just like any leads and clients, you can also track the transaction through the transaction tracker and all their next action item days, and also any transactions where there are no updates but they are still open. That means something has been missed over there, and take a swift action on them. That is all about transactions, and in the next module we will talk about applications.